Hello, everybody. Hello, nobody. Really, I think it's just us because we don't do many live shows. So, I think people may tune in to see our comments after this is over and just post it on the channel. Um, I'm not expecting everybody's probably watching it live themselves, but there are a lot of people doing live streams. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, let's welcome everybody aboard.
Welcome, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching later. Welcome, Pastor Wire TV, our Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks draw show, comments, thoughts on the post positions as they come out. Um, I'll say this to start the conversation. The rail used to be what I would call the dreaded rail, and nobody wanted it. Uh, Now, with the new gate, if you notice when you look at the head on, the old shots used to have that little bend where you could wind up, squeezed between the gate and the other horses. Now it's pretty much a straight run with the better gate. And I know nobody's won from the rail in a long time, but I think that's inevitable to happen. How many horses from the rail really had a chance to win on their form? You got to factor that in. And I don't think the rail is that dreaded a spot anymore. In my opinion.
Well, Jim, what's your thoughts on that before I go?
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree. At least just from the the construction of it, I think tactically it kind of forces your hand, and depending on the horse that's in that one hole, or even that the two, or perhaps even the three hole, depending on the running style and whatever else, it kind of forces you to maybe do something you don't exactly prefer. So from that standpoint, I think it's maybe a disadvantage, but you're right. It's not. You're not running straight into straight into the rail, and I have to go right first. So I do agree with that. Um, I think a lot of the commentary around it is largely overblown, but I think tactically it does kind of force you to make a very early decision that, luckily now you have 7 days to figure it out.
Yeah, and we do have a bunch of people in on the show live. If you open up the chat, you'll see
Welcome everybody.
Geo,
Well,
what's your thoughts on the
yeah.
used to be dreaded rail?
Listen, first things first. Many years between drinks. 1986 is 38 years ago, right? If I do my math right. Ferdinand, right?
Thank
Wins
you,
in
thank you,
86.
Glenn.
Yeah. So with that said, listen, there isn't an owner or trainer or anybody involved with one of the starters that wants to draw the rail. Make no mistakes. They like to say, to be politically correct, my horse, I don't care where he draws. But you know what? Listen, the rail is what it is. Yes, it's improved over the last 4 or 5 years. It's not the same challenge upon breaking. However, regardless of the running style, whether you're going to be one that wants to be tactical on the lead or you're going to be a deadbeat closer, the amount of work that needs to be done from the one or two is just a greater challenge than the others. So as much as it improved, I still think, let's face it, it's the luck of the draw. It's not so much of a problem drawing from the extreme outside, but the 1, 2, and 3 present the challenge. Not so much the 3, but the 1 and 2, in my book, still presents a challenge.
I think you're correct, but I think that a lot of that challenge really comes from just the luck of how things develop. You got a long run down the stretch until that first turn. They start all the way at the top of the stretch. You got a long run. And I was thinking earlier today, I'm like, well, who would you not want to see draw the rail? And the first horse that came to my mind was Fierceness. And I still think that he's the one that I would, if he was my horse, I would least like him to draw the rail. But then I said, you know what? If he does, it's not really the end of the world, because if he jumps good and gets out of the gate good, Johnny could wind up putting him on a lead or putting him, in the 1-2 spot and just outrun a lot of that traffic down that stretch the first time. So I don't think there's any horse. There was a time when, if a horse I liked drew the rail, I would seriously consider looking at somebody else or downgrading him. And I really don't think if, and I don't know who I'm going to land on right now, but I really don't think if the horse I land on is on the rail, that I'm going to step back and say, you know what? I don't want the rail. I mean, is it ideal? No. But is it the kiss of death? I don't really think so anymore. I think the new gate is a tremendous help. And I think horses really, my opinion, can win from anywhere. There's 20 and they can win from anywhere.
And
I mean, we've seen that before, right? Like everybody made a big deal about the 20 posts, and then Big Brown just went out and crushed everybody from post 20. I think I will probably have to disagree with what you said, John, about fierceness. Drawing the one hole. We've seen he doesn't really like to get bothered, and I can only, let's just say he does draw 1, 2, or 3, he's going to have 19, 18, 17 horses, for the most part, kind of squeezing him down in there, and he's going to have to be forward, which he most likely will be, but I think he's going to have to be a little bit more forward and kind of force Johnny V's hand to maybe go a little bit faster earlier on, just to kind of avoid that, perhaps.
Listen,
it's possible.
Another byproduct is.
Are we watching? Does somebody have the feed on?
No. We have 7 minutes to go before the start.
Because I'm not watching. I'm just gonna go by what you guys tell me.
Yeah, Jim. 7:15 sharp is the beginning. So we have another 7 minutes. I'll alert everybody when we're about to begin. But let me add to the post position, since that's the topic of the night. And this is for the gals too, but obviously not as significant for Kentucky Oaks as it is the Kentucky Derby, because the Kentucky Oaks, we got 14 going, and the Derby is what it is. We have 20. But the byproducts are not only where the horse draws, but who has drawn to their left and their right. Is it a horse that's going to be in a struggle early on, surrounded by speed? What are the other contributing factors? Is also essentially important. Listen, I go back. I want to bring up one horse who everybody thought he was a special horse a few years ago. The name of the horse was Rock This World. The horse wins the.
I didn't think he was special.
Let me finish the point. He wins the St. Indian Derby, lights out, right? Wire to wire, he won by open lengths. He didn't run as a juvenile, and he drew what people thought was a comfortable post position. He drew the 15. I didn't look at it as being far out, but a circumstance here, when he broke out of the gate, he was crushed to the left and right. That can happen from any post, right? So if you're on the rail and it happens to you, or if you're in a 2-hole, now you have an added challenge. So the stigma or the concern for everybody that's attending the draw, trust me, and I know they may not want to admit it, but none of the owners or trainers want to and hope, they're keeping their fingers crossed that they do not draw the rail or the 2-hole.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody asked us a question. Riva asked a question. What about the more narrow posts in the gate? Riva, again, I think that people will make more of that than it is. All these horses are going to get schooled in that gate. They're going to walk through it. They're going to stand in it. The ones that are going to act up and be uncomfortable probably would have done that whether they had another foot or two on each side anyway, because, you got to realize you're starting in front of those stands. There's a lot of roaring people. There's a, big crowd, a lot of excitement, a lot of electricity in the air. Horses, they pick up on that. So some will get keyed up and react to it, and some won't. Schooling helps a lot. Horses that have been, to the Breeders' Cup and some of the other big days. That helps a lot because it's not as new an experience for them. But I think I don't think that the narrow gates are going to really have an impact.
I second the thought. I agree with you, John. It's a good question, but I can understand why somebody would ask that question.
Gate course Rosario lost the irons. Yeah, that's true. He did, but was that on the gate or was that on Joel? Or was that just one of those things that would have happened even in a bigger gate? That's kind of how I look at it. I'm not too worried about the size of the gate. And again, a lot of people are going to make more of the draw than I probably will. I'm not inclined to think it's as significant as it used to be, and I honestly, as I used to think it was, especially with the new gate. Oh, I got it on. I've got Santa Anita on in the background on the big TV, and they're showing. It looks like they're going to show the draw. They got a little box with looks like Todd Shrub. Oh yeah, they're showing the draw now. We're getting started.
I think they'll probably do the Oaks first. Yeah.
Ladies first. Absolutely.
What do you make of the, 14 horses in the Oaks, with post position? It's like any other race to me, I think, right?
No, nobody's going to like my opinion. I think the Derby should be 14 horses and take away a little bit of the traffic jams, but
yeah,
nobody's going to like that and listen to me anyway.
I tell you guys, the Oaks, as we're going to get started, I did a significant amount of race review, and I'm really intrigued with the field. It is a beautiful field of fillies. I'm landing on 2 or 3 that are going to be very tough. But when we get the post positions, we'll add a Bullet Comet, and then we have a lot of handicapping to do.
And since you people joined live, I'll just throw something out there. The reason that I have Santa Anita on is because I love a horse in the 9th race at Santa Anita today, the 3-horse Bella Bell, who I have bet on, and I will be not being rude, but if they're still doing the draw, they just ran the 7th. If they're still doing the draw by then, and you see my head leaning this way, you'll know why. And if you see me really, really leaning, you'll know that I'm in the fight. So, because that's my tell when I'm alive, is I have a tendency to lean. So, but I like Bella Bell in the 9th race at Santa Anita.
Okay, they just drew the 9 hole in the Kentucky Oaks. Everland. Everland the 9.
Oh, they already drew the 12 too. Looks like somebody's in the 12 hole.
Yeah, it's Power Squeeze.
Power Squeeze.
Power Squeeze got the 12. Let's keep it up for the audience.
Where's my ring? 3.
Where's my ring? Jose Lascano. Number 3 is Where's My Ring. Trainer Val Brinkerhoff was so confident. And Where's My Ring? He flew her.
Where's My Ring was very, very impressive. Leaving California, he came to New York, and he put together a big stretch run. I was very impressed with him in the Gazelle. Great stalker.
I say the winner has not drawn yet.
Yeah.
I agree.
Regulatory Risk in the 4 hole.
Number 4 is Regulatory Risk, despite having only 1 win.
Regulatory Risk in the 4 hole. That's a filly that's going to be somewhat up against it.
But it's Chad. Never discount Chad.
And 1 of 2 for Klarovich Stables in here. So
right. And the other one is just a freaky good kind of horse.
Into Champagne in the 10 hole. Let me tell you something. That filly, what I saw over the track, that filly's built like a colt. She's a big gal.
She impressed me in the paddock at Gulfstream Park this year as much as any horse I can remember in the last couple of years. She really looked the part in the paddock, but she didn't run like that when she hit the racetrack, and that's what counts. It ain't a beauty contest.
Number 11 is Ways and Means. So after a breathtaking
the 11 is Ways and Means. Tyler Gaffleone in the saddle.
I'm okay with that for her. outside, out of trouble. Last time she was in a ton of trouble in a tough spot off a big layoff.
On the first turn. Despite this, she only lost by 1.
She's got a pretty good pattern. She seems to be improving at the right time, ways and means.
Yeah, she worked fast, and that last race, I just hope it didn't take too much out of her because she really gutted down to try and win it. But she's got as much talent as anybody in the race.
The number 8 is Tarifa. Extremely dangerous gal in the Oaks.
Probably the horse.
Very high on her. Pratt is up. Brandon Hux has a fast filly there.
Probably the one to beat.
Number 5.
Torpedo Anna.
Number 5. Thor.
Dangerous on Thoroughgraph. On my Thoroughgraph show, I talked a lot about her. She's sneaky dangerous.
Let me tell you something, folks. No other gal, no other filly impressed me more than Torpedo Anna.
Didn't Ken
Extremely
McPeak
dangerous
say?
horse in the Oaks.
McPeak said recently he was thinking about running her against the boys.
Yeah. But Kenny, I like Kenny and all that, but he's a big hype guy, man. He hypes his horses from here to the moon.
Number 1.
Darrell goes to Tapaginelli. Number 1, Tapaginelli.
Homebred for Willis Horton, who was last seen finishing third with a wide trip to her fellow rival, Torpedo Anna. Number 1, Tapaginelli.
13 hole for just FYI.
A little wide for her, but long run. She can get
Billy
off.
Mott,
She's going to go forward off that one race she had back.
2-year-old filly champ. She's a contender.
No question.
No confidence in his filly. He said of her most recent work, and I quote, "I don't ever recall a horse ever working that good. I'm sitting on a good one." That's
Those who are watching, Torpedo Anna won her last first in 23 effortlessly. She's a dynamic filly.
Number 6 is Lemon Muffin. Keith Asmussen will be
Number 6 drawer is Lemon Muffin for you muffin lovers out there.
Lemons forever.
Lemon Muffin.
Lemons forever. Barbaro had the double. Lemons forever. Barbaro double. $800 and something double. I'm not going to have Lemons Muffin, unfortunately.
Number 7, Fiona's Magic, Luis Saez. Number 7,
Another horse that surprised me at Gulfstream, but didn't really look like an Oaks kind of horse to me.
Fiona's Magic, number 7. Luis Saez is the right rider for that filly.
Number 7, Fiona's Magic. Number 4,
Leslie's Rose, 14.
Just YI, okay. Impel is not in the Oaks, Matt. Impel's in the sprint race.
The 14, Leslie's Rose. I ran on the outside for Todd Pletcher.
She's dangerous. Nice filly. Lightly raised, getting better.
All 4 first starts will once again ride for trainer Todd Pletcher. 14, Leslie's Rose. Number 2, Jin Florent Giroux. Number 2 is Jin.
2 hole is Jin.
He is only one of 2 horses
Another Brad Cox filly.
here at Churchill Downs. She broke her maiden in our September meeting of last year.
I think she needs to go forward, but
Once in her 7 career
I wasn't overly impressed with Jin in race review.
She had every opportunity in New York and just
You know, to me, and I'm kind of glad about this, but when I look at the Oaks and the Derby this year, it's kind of rare for me because this far out and this early, usually I have a lot more contenders on my short list in both races than I do this year. I mean, this year I got, 3 or 4 in the Oaks and, maybe 2, 3, 4 tops in the Derby that I think can win. There's a lot of horses I don't think can win both races. So, narrowing it down a little bit from there, it's not going to be that difficult. I'm hoping anyway.
Are happy with those respective draws.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting with those.
I don't think anybody I would say got hosed here.
Sort of and stalking capability.
I would think that just FYI and
where they want to be not get caught by.
the Leslie horse, what's her name? Probably wish they were a little more inside than 13 and 14, but I think both can win from there.
Just FYI, you
I agree with you. So everybody knows the official post position order. Tap It Janelle is the 1. Jin Jin is the 2. Oh, it just went off the screen. If you were taking notes, we'll put it up again.
It'll be all over the place
Yeah,
anyway.
I think just FYI, though, draws favorably against us. Maybe taking care of them early.
Let's see. Yeah, they posted
But
it
even though I have
already.
to fully complete my handicap, the 2 fillies I was most impressed with, and I still need to see the past performances now that I know the post positions, were Torfia and Torpedo Anna. I think, in my opinion, at this stage, Torpedo Anna is the horse to beat in the Oaks. And it's going to be a tough way for me to come off of her because the way she won was visually impressive. And I think she's got more in the tank.
Nancy, I will have to get back to you on that. No, she wasn't in. When I got the Oaks and Derby Thoroughgraph sheets, I they only sent me, the contenders who they thought were going to be in the race, and she wasn't on there. So I haven't seen her sheet yet. And interestingly enough, and I commend Churchill Downs for doing the draw this early. I hope they draw all the undercard races tomorrow so the PPs come out. There you have it.
Here we have it. Now, right off the top, I'm going to offer in my opinion, at this stage, and I still got to do more work, the 3 most imposing fillies on that board right there are Torpedo Anna, Tarfia, so that's the 5-8, and Ways and Means, the 11. And I have respect for just FYI. I think Leslie's Rose has IRAD, but that's a challenge in post because there's a lot of ground to be made. Not out of it, but that's my initial opinion on that draw.
Yeah, I think so far going through it, I'm leaning very heavily on Ways and Means in here, and I like just FYI as well. So, and that Oaks Derby double, I'll be playing both of those probably pretty heavily.
I mentioned, interestingly enough, I had the Lemons Forever Barbaro Oaks Derby double. I had a couple of others, but I stopped playing that bet quite a while ago because I have found that there's never really as much value in it as I think there should be. I think they come back rather short, especially if a shorter price wins one or both of the races. And a lot of times I look at the Will Pace and I'm like, wow, that's all those doubles are paying with the size of that pool. So I there's so many other great value wages to make on that Friday and that Saturday that's just not one that I go after.
I wanted to add a comment on Ways and Means because somebody had posted a question about him, and I wanted to address it. It's a nice looking filly, well trained. You got IRAD for Chad Brown. If you watched the last race, had tons of trouble, wasn't a good trip. And Power Squeeze, another horse entered in this race, went right by her. There's going to be a reversal of that. So Ways and Means is going to improve and finish ahead of Power Squeeze. But I just like the 2 I mentioned. It's going to be hard for me to come off those 2 gals.
Wait, a lot's going to depend on, are we doing the Derby?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, let's go to the Derby, folks. Who's better than us?
Catalytic 5.
Catalytic gets the 5 for Joe Safi Joseph. Yeah, Jim, you read them off to us, okay?
All right.
Torpedo Anna and Ways and Means 5.
Who's on Catalytic again?
The rail goes to Dornock.
Wow. The kiss of death.
Ugh. Well, he was a toss for me anyway, but
the dreaded rail.
Dornock is actually a physical specimen, but I didn't have Dornock in my top 10. And I don't think I'm going to move him forward after I complete my handicap.
11, Forever Young. I like that.
What's that number, Jim? 11?
Yeah.
Forever Young. Listen, much can be said about that guy. 5 for 5. When you have a nose for the wire, but I don't think Japan's going to bring in a winner. Still got work to be done, but he's not in my consideration on the win end. He did draw a good post.
12, Track Phantom.
Pace factor.
Track Phantom, actually a good post for Steven Asmussen. I kind of think that Asmussen may want to take that guy off the pace, not dead off, but be in the second pack. I don't know if he's going to put him on the lead, my personal opinion. Especially if there's speed to his inside. He is a fast horse getting out of the gate, however.
Ooh, Stronghold, 18.
Stronghold.
Stronghold. Wow. Stronghold. I like Stronghold.
That's tough. That's a tough post for him, I think.
He's a gutty fighter.
Ideal, but long run to that first turn. At least you know you're out of trouble, but you could be out wide.
Good point, John. Let me tell you something. That first turn for our audience, so you know, it's a quarter of a mile to the first turn, and that is, positioning and jockey maneuvering is imperative.
But I like that horse Stronghold a lot, and I think Antonio Fresu is a phenomenal rider. Really, really.
He's a nice colt. There's a lot of things to like and root for him. He drew the 18. It's going to be hard for me to really carry him into my exotics.
Not me. Not too worried about it.
He was in my top 7 before I saw the workouts and before this post position draw. He's a nice colt.
I don't know. Did this freeze for anybody else? They're stuck on 18, but I'm not listening.
No, Catching Freedom just drew the 4-hole.
All right, John, keep it abreast. It's off on my screen, too. Catching Freedom, the 4-hole, huh?
Yes.
For Flavian Pratt.
See, now, I wouldn't be in love with that draw if I was a Catching Freedom fan, because he's not on the lead. He's not too far back. He's going to be right in the midst of the traffic, if you ask me.
That's a valid point. Catching Freedom is going to be as far back as Sierra Leone.
They just drew the 19, and it's Resilience.
Resilience, the 19 for Bill Mott.
Yes.
Hey, look, he had a nice run in the wood. You got to admit the 19 seems to be a challenge for Resilience because he wants to be forwardly placed. He's tactical. And
Just Steel just drew number 6. You could probably hear it in the background.
Just Steel, number 6, the coach, 88 years old, another entry in the Derby. By the way, Just Steel come running hard his last race.
We literally changed the game. Having him put his confidence in you is invigorating. Paused for a minute and then said, "I'm pumped up." That's number 6.
It's funny. This feed is just still stuck
Yeah,
on.
John, you got the
Don't worry,
feed.
I got it.
Gold on me.
Just a touch drew number 8 with Florent Giroux.
Interesting. Now,
Good
Just
spot.
a Touch
Good
is
spot.
he's a contender. He's
Good
got some
spot.
fast speed figures. He's going to be tactical, and I think he moves forward from his bluegrass.
He's going to have to.
And that Just a Touch is a tactical horse without distance limitations and lots of room.
That's a pretty good post for him.
We had the owner, Jon Stewart, on the show. Real, good show the other day.
The only thing that Just a Touch violates for me, he didn't run as a juvenile, but I'm very impressed with his overall talent.
Number 9, Encino.
Encino officially in, draws the 9-hole. He impressed me moving from the synthetic over to the main track. He's a contender.
I'll answer that in a second, Matt.
By the way, for our audience, stick around because we're going to field some
We'll
questions.
get all
at
the
end of
questions. Yeah.
We're going to answer all your questions.
Domestic product number 15.
IRAD for Chad Brown, domestic product. Guys, that's a fast closing colt, improving. He's a contender. I still got to do my work, but he's a contender.
First time that he's going to get a fast pace to run into, too.
What was he, 15?
Yes.
Keep in mind, when a horse shows the tenacity and the willingness to run fast or late.
Society Man drew number 20, far outside with Frankie.
Number 20 for Society Man, Danny Goggin. He's probably got a better shot with him from the 20 with Frankie than he does with Warner.
Goggin bookended. He drew the rare.
What are the odds?
Didn't work out.
Yeah, Danny Goggin, bookends. By the way, Society Man, and our audience knows I gave that horse out for the exotics in the wood. He didn't disappoint. I kind of like that Frankie's on him. He's going to have a big trip ahead of him.
Sierra Leone, number 2.
Woo!
Right, Sierra Leone, number 2.
The Beast, son of Gunrunner, Sierra Leone draws the 2-hole. Makes this race in the Kentucky Derby even more compelling.
He's the only freight train in the race.
He's got a lot of work to do. And by the way, Tyler Gaffleone, I love him. He's a good rider, but he's not elite.
I would argue that point.
My humble opinion.
I would argue that point. But that's not an ideal spot for him. But number 10, Teo Password.
Teo Password, folks.
The other Japanese horse.
That's the most likely horse to finish 20th in this field. If he wins, I quit the game.
Don't say things like that. Horses humble everybody.
Teo Password is not winning the Kentucky Derby.
I've heard people say that, and then they don't quit. Now then not only did you get humbled by a horse, then you lost credibility. So
I'll be humbled by any of the 19, not by Teo Password.
Where was he? 10?
Was he 10? I don't remember.
Remember, folks, stick around at the end. We're going to answer your question.
Hang on. Anna Marie, number 7.
Anna Marie draws the lucky 7. That horse is an up-and-coming horse. Closes with a lot of fury. That horse is going to be a factor with a good trip and a stretch. I still got to complete my handicap, but I have respect for Anna Marie.
Number 3 is Mystic Dan with Brian Hernandez.
BJ Hernandez gets Mystic Dan. We all know he ran a big-time race in a slop. I still think he moves forward. He's not in my top 7, but I still need to do some work on him. I was only impressed with one of his replays, the time he won big in the slop.
Yeah, I think he needs a little moisture in the track, maybe a lot of moisture in the track.
I agree. 17, 17.
Woo-hoo!
Good draw for him.
It is let me tell you something, folks. And you're going to get a lot out of our handicap show with John and I that's going to be out there on Monday. But Fierceness in the 17 is an excellent draw. And let me tell you something. Number 17 has never won. 0 for 42.
Means nothing.
I'm saying it's due.
Means
and
nothing.
Johnny V is probably the most intelligent rider in the race.
Endlessly just drew somewhere, but I can't hear where. 14.
14 for Endlessly. Most of you folks know Endlessly is trying the main track. Ran wonderful on the synthetic, and it's a nice looking colt.
But let me tell you something. Historically, if you look back, turf horses do very well on the main track. At
Animal Kingdom with Johnny V.
Many others too.
Number 16,
Grand Motor First, number 16.
Grand Motor First, 16, right inside of Fierceness. Guys, I'm really excited that Fierceness drew the 17.
He did get a really good draw. Gives him a little bit of an advantage over Sierra Leone. But You still got to get that last eighth of a mile, and you still got to get looked in the eye.
John, you and I are going to have some conversation. in the
West
inning.
Saratoga, 13.
West Saratoga 13.
It was the last book of
Like the Colt, don't love the coat.
horses left, and with no one else in the ring, Larry called him and said, "I think I've got one." $11,000 later, and West Saratoga was theirs. That $11,000 investment has returned more than $460,000, and now a spot in the 150th Derby. Harry added, "Larry can look to a horse and can see more than what normal people can see." Number 13.
All right, who's left?
I think that's it.
And that is it.
That's it. All right. Now, let me tell you, my mom, if she was still alive, okay, big horse player, loved the races, big poker player. Her name was Marie, but everybody called her Ginger because she was a dancer, and they used to mimic, say Ginger Rogers. So if she was alive, and somehow Gin wins the Oaks, and Anna Marie wins the Derby, and I don't have it, she'd be like, "How do you not have that?" I'm like, "But I don't bet names." She goes, "But I don't understand it." So I gotta bet a double Gin into Anna Marie.
You got to put at least a fin on it, John. $5.
More.
Now let's answer some of the questions. By the way, I see Matt Butler. He's asking how that post affects Sierra Leone. Now, Matt, if you're there for our show, John and I are going to have a significant 1 through 20 fully elaborating Kentucky Derby handicap show that will most likely be published on Monday afternoon. We're going to say a lot about Sierra Leone and that post, but we both agree at this stage, right now, it's a challenging post for him because he's going to have to work a lot harder, and there's more on Tyler Gaffleon.
But I will say this: his particular style, I don't think it's going to have a big impact, and I'll tell you why. As long as Tyler doesn't panic, which I don't think he will. Sierra Leone likes to drop at least a dozen lengths back off the pace. He will. That'll put him back enough out of the traffic jam. Okay? Tyler's going to have to sit patient back there. The horse takes dirt in the face, no problem. He swings wide and makes his run, no problem. So as long as Tyler doesn't panic and feel like he's got to rush him or make too many moves with him and just sits back, lets the race unfold in front of him, and then just picks his spot, either splitting horses and finding a seam or going around everybody. As long as he just does that without getting stopped, I don't think it's gonna hurt him. A lot of intangibles there we don't know, but I think it doesn't make me say, you know what, I don't like him as much now.
That's a great
What is
point,
my
John.
opinion on the final fraction theory? I don't know the final fraction theory.
That's basically like, whoever ran the fastest, final eighth of like the prior prep race.
No. Let me tell you.
I think.
Diane,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what it is.
Well, if that's what it is, and Diane, you can weigh in if that's not what it is. But Diane, if that's what it is, I pay very little attention to most of those kind of stats because you got to get really in deeper because you'll say, okay, well, this horse ran the first final, but what set him up to do that? Was it a fast early pace? Was he just the fastest finisher? One of the things, I did a show on pace handicapping a couple of years ago, and one of the things that formulator allows me to do is I'll look at a race the way most people do, where you see the splits of the winner, okay? Then I'll go back and I'll switch it, and I'll look at the splits of the individual horse I'm looking at. And you get a much better idea of the pace and who runs good quarters and, who's finishing fast, who's finishing slow, who's steady. But those kind of theories, they all change, and everything is dependent upon, this particular race, like they say in football, on any given Sunday. So, a couple of years ago, you couldn't win without the right dosage index. That went out the window. You can't win from the one hole. Somebody will eventually. You can't win if you didn't run it two. Justify and was it Justify and Mage, but two horses that didn't run it two both wound up winning. So, no, I don't put much stock in that.
I'm going to add, John, good point. I'm going to add a little more to that. For example, I'll use domestic product as an example because it's something I was very, very impressed with. His last 2 races earlier this spring, in both occasions, it was an exceptionally pedestrian pace. Yet, with no pace, the horse still dug down deep and closed very, very fast. It's very difficult to do that because when they're too slow up front, it's very difficult to make up ground. So if you look at the last 8 of those races, and I trust the way Chad Brown is training, I see domestic product with a forward movement in this race because if he's got a very moderate to fast pace, which is likely, and he makes the same type of run and moves forward, he's going to be dangerous. Just as an example.
Don't worry, Nancy. Matt, on replays, I use RTN, Racetrack Network. I subscribe to them because I like to watch the racetrack live feeds of every racetrack. And they give you an option when you log on, whether you want to watch live feeds or replays. Great spot for replays. Formulator has a lot of replays in there. As you're looking at the past performances on the right where the comment is, it's highlighted blue. You click on it, and it takes you right to the replay. So I lean to those two for my replays. I'm scrolling through for questions.
Yeah, put up each question so we could all
I
take.
don't know how to put them up. I don't know how to read them.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, go ahead there, Jim.
Let's see. Questions.
By the way, you know what I think? Before the question shows up, Danny Goggin getting bookended between the 20 and the 1. I'm here to tell
Matt,
you.
they don't show all of them. Some of them are blocked out. Go ahead, Gio. I'm sorry.
I'm here to tell you is that Dornoch, I'm putting a line through Dornoch at the 1 hole because I wasn't overly impressed with the way. I mean, the horse is built nice. He's a physical specimen, and he's a fast horse. But in this field, there are so many other horses that have greater intangibles. Now that Dornoch's the 1 hole, it's going to be easier for me to leave him off the board. I think Goggin's horse, Society Man, with Frankie Dettori, has a better shot of finishing ahead of Dornoch. So that's one thing. That's one comment I'll make here. All right, go ahead. What's the question?
No, it's not a question, just a comment. Yeah, I agree that they won't lose any ground, but I'm a little bit more worried about Catching Freedom because he's going to be closer, I think, than Sierra Leone is.
And by the way, since you mentioned that, you're talking about the horses being boxed in. Since you mentioned Dornoch in the same question here, yeah, in my humble opinion, the fact that he drew the 1, I wouldn't even consider Dornoch. Now, Catching Freedom, I believe Flavian Pratt makes better, quicker decisions. I'm not downgrading Tyler Gaffleone. I think Tyler Gaffleone is an exceptional jockey. He's very good. I just don't think he's in the class of the top 4 or 5 that I believe are very cerebral and very decisive, and they're fierce competitors. So Catching Freedom is probably going to have an easier trip than Sierra Leone, but Sierra Leone is a much better horse and is regally bred for the distance. No horse in this entire field is born to go 1.25 miles like Sierra Leone.
Frank D'Angelo, I tend to agree with you that fierceness is a little bit overrated. Gio, I do not agree with you about Tyler Gaffleone. I think he's an excellent rider. I think he's really coming to his own. I would call him an elite rider. I think he's top 10 in the country. He's very tough, in my opinion, fearless, strong finisher, doesn't back down, and I'll take him with anybody. I like Tyler.
I do agree top 10, John. I'm just saying I don't believe he's top 5.
Okay.
The full body of work. Here, let me tell you something. The binoculars are not only on Sierra Leone in this race. They're going to be on Tyler. This is a big opportunity for him from the 2-hole, big time.
Well, he's risen to the occasion before. He's a Preakness winner. I got no problem with Tyler. None. I like him on that horse. And I like a guy that's hungry for their first Derby, too. But I don't think he'll be the hungriest rider for the Derby. I think that'll be Frankie.
Now, what's this next question? They're saying Fierceness is at all. Don't like Fierceness. Now, here's why he's not overrated. And like I said, we're going to cover a lot of this in the handicap show, but I'm going to just throw one bullet at you. All right? Fierceness is the type of horse, his speed stands alone. We all know that. Okay? But if you look at the way he won and his moves within the race, his acceleration, he's not Forte. He's better than Forte.
We'll see. Forte dug in and won a couple of fights. Fierceness has never won a fight yet.
He hasn't had to be in a fight.
That's not true. He's been in fights and lost.
He needs to break well. If he breaks well,
he's been in fights and lost.
I don't want to give too much information, but the 17 draw is a fabulous position for Fierceness.
That I agree with. But when he's been looked in the eye and had a fight, he didn't do it. He didn't get it done.
I know, but
I'll say this: if you've been watching I'll get to that in a second, Queen Z or Queens, whichever it is. He's an enigma to me. He really is.
Look,
he's got a great draw. He can stalk. He's got two things. Okay, he's never won 2 races in a row back to back. He's regressed off his big races. I don't like that. He's never been looked in the eye and win a fight. But I will say this. The 2 times I saw him on the racetrack, one time they had him inside, one time they had him outside, head and head. So they're trying to teach that. But you can't really teach heart.
I agree entirely.
Yeah.
Listen,
endlessly, I think is dangerous, believe it or not, Queen Z. I like grass horses on the Churchill Downs track. I think that horse has a lot of class to him. I think he's going to be completely overlooked in like the 30, 40, 50 to 1 range. And I think he's one of the horses that if he does handle the dirt, which I suspect that he will, he's one of the horses I'm relatively confident will be running at the end and finishing when there's a lot of horses in here that I believe will be gasping for air the last 8th and 16th and even 3/16 of a mile.
That's a good point. And the fact that they're going with endlessly would be 1 to 5 in a race other than the Kentucky Derby because of the success. What was the race that they were pointing to, John? If they didn't run him in the Kentucky Derby, it was a grade 2. He would be a significant favorite. The fact that he's running in the Kentucky Derby, I consider him ambitiously entered. However, and he's got a great turn of foot. I'm impressed with endlessly too. The challenge here is the new surface and what's going to be in front of him. And they're going to be bigger, more talented, tougher, hard-hitting horses coming at the same time, like a Catch and Freeman and a Sierra Leone.
I would have to say
there it is.
The best pattern, in my opinion, is Sierra Leone. The best thoroughgraph pattern of them all is Sierra Leone. That's
John, that's a very fair point. Listen, Sierra Leone is not only a beast, a physical specimen. He's regally bred, any son of gun runner, but he's proven, he's basically unbeaten. When he lost the door knock, it was a freak. So he's going to make his run. I said this to a buddy of mine just the other day. The most probable horse to hit the board in the entire race is Sierra Leone. Because even if the horse has traffic issues and bumps and Tyler misses a lane, he's still going to be good enough to come hard in the stretch and be 4th or 3rd. The reason why he's going to be challenged on the win end, he's going to need an absolute perfect trip perfect decision, split second decision by Tyler, and there's going to be so many other horses coming. So I agree with you. From a padding perspective, Sierra Leone is imposing. He looks like he wants to go a mile and a half, let alone a mile and a quarter. But I don't know, the 2-hole, I got to look at the final workout, and I don't want to be decisive right now. And I will look, I'll say one thing.
Really good.
Sierra Leone is going to be in the money. You can't leave that horse off the board.
Encino, I believe that Encino is most likely, in my opinion, the pace setter. I think he's going to go for the lead. And I think he's the one that they're going to have to run down. And I think that he actually hurts Fierceness chances a lot. And I'll tell you why. If the race unfolds the way that I believe it will, and Encino and Rodney, if you're right, that kind of boosts my opinion a little bit, because I think Encino is going to go for the lead. I don't think he's going to give it up as easy as a lot of people might think. And I think Fierceness is going to have to work to get by him. Now, he may get by him, he may not. But if he does, I think he's going to have to work to get by him. And if he's got to work to get by him, and Johnny's really got to ask him and get into him and get him past him, is he going to be able to open up, get enough distance, and be able to hold off those late runners like he's going to have to do? And that becomes a big, big question mark for me if I'm right about the pace. And again, I haven't looked at the formulator with the splits the way that I like to, but just looking off my own, past performances early without really dissecting that pace dynamic yet. That's kind of how I saw it. And I didn't think that was very good for Fierceness. Now, in the Derby, wild stuff always happens. Somebody don't break and somebody you don't expect is on the lead, or one guy goes and everybody else doesn't because they think it's a mile and a quarter and nobody's going to go all the way. But remember this about the Kentucky Derby. Everybody tries to, be smart and pick the best horse and think, I want to know who the best 3-year-old is. A lot of times, the best horse doesn't win the Derby. Rich Strike wasn't the best horse in that field.
Not even close. Not even close.
That day. Mind That Bird wasn't the best horse. Horses like Super Saver, Always Dreaming, just coincidentally 2 Todd Pletcher horses. Lily T, Pat Day's only Derby winner. Those 3 horses, they never won another race, any of them. I don't think Mage did. Did Mage ever win another race?
No, Mage disappeared from the face of the earth after the Kentucky Derby.
No, he ran a couple times. He just didn't win.
Ran a couple times. He just didn't
I mean by
look
disappearing,
all that
he
good.
never performed the same way again.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. But my point is the best horse doesn't win the Derby a lot of the time. So looking for the best horse, yes, White Barrios and Thoroughbred Patents. They were both really good. So to me, I don't really look at the Derby like a lot of other people. I'm not looking for the best horse. If you ask me who the best horse in the Kentucky Derby is, and I may wind up betting on him, but I would say it's Sierra Leone. And I think he's proven that right now he's the best horse. But that said, that doesn't mean that when I handicap the race, I married him and I'm gonna
You're right, because now you got John. You got to digest.
Right, exactly.
You got to digest the final workouts.
Now I may bet on him, and they all had their final workouts already, so those are in the book. Okay. Nobody else is. If Rick Dutrow had a horse in the race, he might blow him out 2 days before.
No, the final workouts are done. I need to see them in print on the past performance and watch what I can. But what's going to be really important is to fully absorb these post positions and paint the picture of how you feel the entire race is going to unfold. You just made a point about the pace. Jim, can you just put the field up again? I want to give you my opinion of the pace at this stage. I
understand, Rock Tour. It's not the best draw, but good horses can overcome things.
Okay. I do agree with you that Encino from the 9-hole is no doubt in my mind going to be tactical or forwardly placed. Around the first turn, which is a quarter of a mile to the first turn, I'm expecting Encino to be 1, 2, or 3. If he has the lead, that's a good thing, and it sets up a target for Fierce. Now, Fierceness, Johnny V is just too cerebral. He's too intelligent to not make the right decision on Fierceness. Now, Fierceness, if he wants to lead, he's going to get it. But Johnny V is going to realize the speed that's inside of him, and he'll sit a length and a half, 2 lengths back beyond the catbird seat, right on their tail. Now,
I'm counting on that. If
Okay.
I'm betting against him, that's what I want him to do because I think it's a mistake.
now
I
other
think that
horses,
Fierceness is, to me, and I could be wrong, but to me, Fierceness' best chance to win the Kentucky Derby. I
is
don't
wire
want
to wire.
chance, but I would say best chance is wire to wire. I think if Johnny tries to get cute and sit off anybody, I think he compromises that horse's chances. But
Okay.
I haven't won any races, and he's won a couple of thousand. So
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. My point I'm making, I was going to finish my pace scenario. All right. I think Asmussen with where is Track Phantom, the 12. I think Asmussen is going to be a little creative here. Every one of the races, Track Phantom just got out of the gate. He breaks alertly, and he went right to the lead. I don't think he's going to do this again and tempt his fate again, because every single time, even though he's a nice colt, he just runs out of steam. And I don't know if he's going to go another 8, which is 220 yards. That's 2 football fields. I don't think so the tactic is going to change, in my opinion, with Track Phantom. But 2 other horses they're going to be looking to be forwardly placed. Just a touch, because that's his running style. Don't be surprised he's second behind Encino, with Fierceness third. And the fact that Stronghold broke horribly from the 18, Antonio Fazou is probably going to be instructed, hey, we got to get out of the gate and we have to establish position. He's a fighter, but he needs to be in that second flight of horses. He won't get the lead. He won't be 1, 2, or 3, but Stronghold needs to be 4, 5, or 6 to have any chance.
I actually, the more I look, the more I like where he's drawn, and I think he's going to be in a catbird spot. Does anybody think Track Phantom can hit the quad 4th? Is all I'm asking. I don't.
I don't think so either. He hasn't shown much, from his last 2 starts. At least for me, were a little disappointing. And as the distance gets a little bit longer here, his late pace figure on Brisnet in the Louisiana Derby was an 82, which just not up to speed with the rest of them. That said, just a touch his late pace figure from the Bluegrass was an 83, which isn't all that good either. But you can go either way, I guess. But I'm not much of a fan of Track Phantom.
Well,
I love Donald Daly's approach. I love that. Toss the 2, toss the 17. Just go for it. I love it. Guy's got guts.
Hey, listen.
Oh, guts. I like it.
Toss the 2 and the 17. Well, listen. One thing that's a cute comment. I mean, listen. We all know what happens in deep stretch when they turn for home. That's what's very important. When I do my handicapping, I'm like a painter, like an artist that has to draw a picture of how I feel the race is going to pan out from the time they break out of the gate. I'll actually put it down on paper to the back stretch as they approach the top of the stretch and they turn for home. There's 3 horses I feel, because of how well they've run recently, I think they're going to be coming, and they're going to be nice horses to consider for your superfecta. To add to the gentleman's point, he was asking about Track Phantom. Now, Track Phantom is a nice colt. He's fast, but Stephen Asmussen's too smart. I just got a gut feeling that he's going to look to come off the pace a bit with Track Phantom. He's not going to toast him early on, because I don't think he's going to be fast enough to get the lead around the first turn. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and then he still won't last. So I think they're going to hold him back a bit and see if he could run to hit a target. Now the 2 horses, actually there's 3 horses. When I look at this board right now,
people are asking about this horse, so I think we should talk a little bit.
Forever Young.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to finish my thought, and then we'll get into Forever Young. Anna Marie, Just Steel, and Catch and Freedom. Aside from the obvious of Sierra Leone coming with a big run in the stretch, those 3 horses, to me, I'd be very surprised if they came up empty because they're training well. They got good riders on them, and I just feel they're going to be moving forward in the race. So with a good trip, as long as they're not sideswiped and blocked, they're going to make a run in the stretch, and they're horses that could hit your superfecta. All right, Forever Young. John, first.
I'll tell you, it is an interesting situation for me. And I've mentioned this before, so not to really be redundant, but, you know, all you hear from media people, from everybody on the grounds, from all the commentators is how great, all the trainers, everybody's working great, everybody's doing great, everybody's looking great. Nobody ever tells you horses don't look that good, okay? Last year at the Breeders' Cup, there were 2 horses that I said going into the race looked terrible to me on the racetrack. One was Go Rocket Ride, the other was Archangelo. I said I wouldn't bet a nickel on either one of them. And Go Rocket Ride on his form, I liked. I thought I was going to like him. But when I saw the way he was getting over the track, I didn't like it. And I wouldn't bet a horse that I don't like the way they get over the track because I trust my eyes. I've been watching races for half a century, maybe more. So I think on paper, Forever Young looks intriguing. I think his thoroughgraph pattern with the paired ones in Saudi Arabia and Dubai in the desert is very intriguing. However, I don't like his action down the stretch. Now, I realize he was wide in both of those races. A lot of people say he was very game in the Saudi race. But I thought he ran down Bookham Dano at a mile, and I thought they were both staggering. I don't think Bookham Dano wants to go a mile, even though we'll see him go into Pat Day mile on Derby Day. I think a mile is pushing it for him, and I think he was gasping for air, and Forever Young got him. In the Dubai race, he got up. He was game. He looked beat to me. But again, I didn't like his action. I didn't like the way he goes over the racetrack. So although I like his pattern, although I respect him on paper, although I know the Japanese are going to get their Derby win at some point because they're winning everything else, I can't back a horse that when I watch him get over the track, I don't like the way they move. And that's Forever Young for me. I'm not telling you not to bet him if you like him and you're okay with that. But I just don't like that. I don't like that angle. I don't like a horse that I don't like the way they get over the racetrack. I'm sorry. I that's one of the things I can't get past.
I got a question about that for you, John, because a lot of people are making a big deal about Sierra Leone's front leg and how it kind of moves in a bit of a circle as he comes through.
I don't see it. I mean, he lugs in a little bit, and he's a little green, and he does wheel that leg a little bit. But I look at him, and I see a big, gangly horse that's a beast and strong and still growing into himself and filling out and coming into himself. Now, if he was a 4-year-old and a little bit smaller and still doing that, I might be a little bit more concerned. But he's lightly raced, he's big, gangly, and I think that it's no worry at all. I think he's got a really good way of going, and I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. Bookham Dano is skipping the Pat Day mile. He's not.
Oh, is he?
He's not entered in there. I like Forever Young. I'm certainly going to be using him on plenty of tickets.
A lot of people do, you know, and you know.
I'm gonna offer something on Forever Young. Now, listen, I'm always impressed with a horse that has a nose for the wire. I like horses that want to get to the wire. The horse is 5 for 5, 5 races, 5 wins. However, and it's not like he's just coming overnight. He's already on the ground. He's got a feel for the soil at Churchill Downs. The biggest problem I have with Forever Young, and trust me, it's not easy eliminating a horse that's got back-to-back ones on a thoroughgraph and showed that willingness to win. And the Japanese got a lot of money, and they invest a lot of money in these horses. and he happens to be a nice looking horse, a little small, but he's a nice looking colt. The problem I have is the environment. 160,000 people live, a huge field, and what do you get? You got an underlay price. If I'm going to go with a horse from Japan to add to what John said, who doesn't look that dynamic over the track, even though his performance says he's fast, then you got to give me some nice price. Forever Young, because the Japanese got a lot of money and a lot of folks know he's 5 for 5, he's probably going to be just 8 to 10 to 1. For him to pull an upset, I need 30 to 1 with somebody like that. So
you're not going to get that on him.
yeah.
My top 3 tosses at the moment. That's tough. Grand Motor first, who I've liked in some of the preps, West Saratoga, and that other Japanese horse. What's his name? Hold on.
TO Password.
Theo Password, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'd probably go
Michael
the same.
brings out a good point. The rail does sometimes open up for those closes. Horses tire and drift. If you got the guts to sit on the rail, Street Sense, Rich Strike, Looking at Lucky, Mind That Bird. You know,
Yeah.
there's been others. Just the rail opens up and bang.
It's interesting that someone just brought that up because I'm a big, huge Luis Saez fan. I speak highly of him, and to my audience, he is considered by me an elite rider. He's right up there with Irad Ortiz. And if you ever want my full jockey colony order, I'll give it to you one day. Now, it pains me that Saez is on Dornoch. Dornoch in his wins was never overly impressive. So now that he draws the rail, Saez may just do that. He may say, you know what? I can't win any other way. As long as I keep him on the rail, I have a shot. If he moves him out to the mix, he can't win. He's not good enough to win from the rail. So, I don't know if he's an automatic toss for me because I like Luis Saez. I think he's very intelligent. I think he rides his mounts to the finish line no matter where he is. But that's his only shot of hitting the board. Staying on the rail, since you mentioned.
Jim, you're getting called out now. Rock.
I know.
Who you like?
I know.
Be bold.
Well, I gave my bold Derby prediction a couple weeks ago with you, John, and it's not. I think people are catching on, and it's not as bold as maybe I thought it was when I said Society Man was going to finish ahead of Door Knocking here, and now given the posts and this how much people are fading Door Knock, I don't know how bold that is, but I think for me, I think it's Sierra Leone. I think the 7 and the 8, Anna Marie and Just a Touch, are going to run huge races. I think Anna Marie is going to run great. I really like Stronghold, but just on the figures, just seems to be a little slower. But I don't know. We talk about Sierra Leone being a beast. I don't know that there is a tougher, more gritty horse in this race than Stronghold. So I'm definitely going to be including him. Quality horse, great horse, really, that I really like. The 18 post, I think, is a little difficult. And just his figures came back a little bit slower than some of the others. But I think I'd be silly if I left him off completely because he's shown look, that Santa Anita Derby. And granted, there was only a couple horses in there, but he split those 2 horses and, looked both of them square in the eye and won that race. And I thought that was impressive. And like you always say, Johnny, you got to trust your eyes. And, along the whole Derby trail, really, he was one that continually caught my eye. So if I'm going to trust my eyes, he's definitely got to be a factor for me in what I'm putting together.
Kathy, I think Frankie is riding in career form, even at his age, and I think he's dangerous on any horse. I don't particularly think that horse is good enough or fast enough, but he's lightly raced. He's still improving. Geo liked him at like 56-1 a couple of weeks ago in the Wood Memorial.
106-1.
106-1. So what I know. But I think he's got his work cut out for him there.
Guys, I'm sorry, John. I didn't want to interrupt you. Wait,
no, it's all right. I'm just trying to get all the questions.
Yeah, before you get to the next question, first of all, the only 2 tosses I have at this stage that they will not be on any of my tickets, even the deeper superfectas, I have 2 tosses because I know I've watched hours and hours of film, and based on the post position, it just solidifies it. T.O. Password, the 10, I would leave him off every ticket. I don't think the horse belongs in this field. He's probably going to get swallowed up. So if he wins and if he's on a ticket, I lose. That's the 10. The other throw out, unfortunately, because, eventually I got to pair away from a number of them. But the second throw out I have at this stage, without me actually having the numbers in front of me as I complete my handicap, unfortunately, it's probably, I would say Grand Mo the First. Because the challenge Grand Mo the First had a nice colt. Because I've seen all his races. He's a nice colt. I don't know if he's grade 1 and certainly not in this field. So I'm not going to use him as well. So let's get on to the next one. Oh, I did want to add, since I'm still talking, you guys stay tuned, because even though Jim's not going to be with us, you're going to get John and I, who have been doing this collectively for 100 years, and that's no exaggeration. So we're going to take you through 1 through 20, match wits, and we're probably going to agree on a number of them, but we're probably going to disagree on a number of them, because that's the nature of handicapping. When you have 2 strong opinions, you don't always going to be, it's never going to lock in perfectly.
What's his name? Axel Concepcion is riding Encino?
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
And he's pretty good from what I've seen. I haven't seen a lot of him, but he's pretty good. All right,
Yeah.
I think we could wrap this up.
All right.
We've got Geo and me Monday doing a little deeper dive on the Derby than we did here. We'll have a chance to go over the past performances, know the post positions, and relook at some replays and Thoroughgraph. Thursday night is our annual Kentucky Oaks Kentucky Derby seminar. We do 2 big seminars a year, one for the Derby, one for the Breeders' Cup. On the Oaks Derby one, if you've got a reservation Thursday, you'll get an invite. Very similar format to today. You'll get a replay after the live version. So if you missed the live version, don't worry. It's going to be Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We're going to cover the Oaks, the Derby, and the 4 races leading into the Derby, or the 3 races leading into the Derby for that pick 4 or pick 5. So we'll cover about 6 or 7 races, or 5 or 6 races at least, deep diving and coming up, whatever we can. And we have a good track record in those seminars. It's a lot of work, but we do pretty good. And thanks, everybody. If you can and you would, show us some love on social media. It means a lot. Hit the like button, on the video. That helps a lot. The comments help a lot. But on social media, if you show some love for the channel and for what we do, we really appreciate it.
Subscribe.
It goes a long way. Subscribe. We're up to, I think we got 5,200 subscribers, and we're getting like 50,000 views a month, which is pretty good for us. We've really come a long way with that. So
one other thing I wanted to add, John, I'm going to be a spectator at the seminar. That's John's day. I'm still going to be part of it, but I'm going to be a spectator. I'm just going to absorb. But I'm going to promise you, for those that follow me, when I do the handicap with John, covering the entire field, I'm going to be precise. I'm going to give you my top 7 precise.
Listen, nobody does a race like Geo. I will say that. In all the Geo, I never seen anybody do it like him. There's 20 horses in the race. He tells you who he thinks is going to finish first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. He tells you who he thinks is going to be 14th as opposed to who's going to be 15th. Like,
That's
I don't know
part
how
of
he does
painting the picture.
I don't know
That's
how
part
he
of
does
painting
it.
the picture.
I can't do that. I did a show on ticket structure. A lot of you guys notice when I play a superfecta, I turn it into an exacta. I take one horse with 2 or 3 horses with all. I can't handicap third or fourth. I don't think anybody can. I don't know how he does it. Who pulls up? Who stops trying? Who says wait? I'll save him for another day. I just can't do it. But Geo does it. So I'll tell you who I like. He'll tell you who's going to finish first through 20th. I don't understand it, but he does it.
You forgot to mention too, John. We'll be live at Churchill
Great.
Downs
Yeah, no.
Wednesday morning, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
We got
We'll be in the
boots on the
barns,
ground, okay?
on the track.
Jim's going to be there. We got Jenny there. They're going to be talking to people. We're going to have stuff on the channel in the morning, during the day, live from the backstretch, live from the races, all kinds of stuff. I'm friendly with Antonio Fresu, Umberto Rispoli. We'll try and track them down. Maybe Frankie Dettori, a couple of other guys. Maybe Jose or Irad. Never know who we'll run into or who we'll call. I just hate calling people and asking them stuff like that, but we'll see what we could do. We'll definitely stop by Chad's Brown, Chad's Bond, get a word or two with him on his horses, and we'll have some fun.
That's going to be
great. We'll have some fun. And at the Breeders' Cup, then we do even more. We're there like all week, really, really dissecting it. So thank you all for tuning in. Enjoy your Saturday night. Enjoy Derby week. And we appreciate all of you, man.
We'll see you on the show on Monday.
All right.
Ciao.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night, everybody. Let's go.